Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Divedi, and in this segment today we are going to discuss a very important portion of your UPSC syllabus, that is the budget 2021-22. This topic is important from the perspective of prelims and extremely important from the perspective of GS Mains paper 3. So let's begin with the topics of discussion that we are going to look at. First of all, we will talk about why news, then we will talk about the annual financial statement. What is it? It is the budget only. We will talk about the highlights of the budget 21-22. We will talk about the significance, the impacts expected and the challenges it is going to face. And in the midst of the segment, I am going to ask you a pre-based question for which if you know the answer, kindly comment in the comment segment. So let's begin with why news. The finance minister has presented the budget and it is the first paperless budget of India. She read the budget on an Made in India tablet, and of course because of the COVID-19 induced pandemic, this particular lockdown, and in the backdrop of it, this budget is extremely significant. Now, it is going to deal with certain challenges, certain things that it had to take care of according to the economic survey which was already published, in order for making the parliament and the citizens of India to understand what is going to be expected in the budget. So let's talk about the annual financial statement. It is given in the Constitution under Article 112 that a budget, or the term budget has not been mentioned in the Constitution of India, so an annual financial statement must be presented. What is an annual financial statement? It is a statement of the estimated receipts and expenditure of the government for that particular year. So it is a proper statement having an expected expenditure and anticipated receipts. Now, it is prepared by the Budget Division of the Department of Economic Affairs under the Finance Ministry. And if we talk about how it is prepared, first it is prepared, then it is presented in the Parliament, then comes general discussion. After that comes demand or vote for demands of grant, then comes passing of the appropriation bills, and after that passing of the finance bill. Now, in the year 2017, there were certain changes that were made in the budget. So, first change was, before 2017, the budget used to be passed at the last day of February, the month of February. And if we talk about 2017, the budget started to get passed on the 1st of February. Then comes, it was merged. The general budget was merged with the railway budget. And the change in 2017, one more change was that to do away with planned and non-planned expenditure. Now, planned expenditures are those expenditures which were expected to be expended because of the Planning Commission, for works of Planning Commission, and all other expenditure which were not expected to be given away apart from Planning Commission's projects were non-planned expenditure. So, if we talk about that, it was done away with, right? And if we talk about what are the objectives of the budget, the first one is relocation of resources. So, relocation of resources means distribution of resources in order to bring equity. How it has an objective to bring equity? Because the government, with the help of the budget, it imposes taxes on the elitists or the elite class of our society, and with the help of those taxes, it distributes for the welfare programs, it distributes that revenue for the welfare of the society as a whole, for the welfare of the non-privileged class. Third objective was or is to contribute to economic growth. Of course, any government under its budget needs to see how the citizens of one's country are going to invest and save. So, investment and saving are all given in the budget. Proper planning is being done. According to that, savings and investment will take place, and then comes economic growth, bringing economic stability. Now, with the help of deficit budget, balanced budget or surplus budget, the government strives to bring economic stability. Managing public enterprise as well, it's another objective of the government of India, to infuse that amount of money that is needed for public enterprises, because public enterprises help with the welfare of the society. and reduce regional differences. Different industries, different projects have been given in the budget so that a place or a region which is underdeveloped could be developed with the help of development of industry or structuring of industry in that particular region. Because of course, when an industry develops in a region, all the other economic activities also get stimulated. That comes regional, that reduces regional difference. Now, if we talk about general budgeting, some concepts are there. So, government budget is divided into two, revenue budget and then comes capital budget. Revenue budget means having revenue receipts and revenue expenditure in the picture. Alright, and revenue receipts means those receipts which do not directly affect the assets and liabilities of the government, and revenue expenditure are those expenditures that do not affect the liabilities and assets of the government, right? And then comes capital receipts and capital expenditure. Now these two affect the assets and liabilities of a government. That is why they are known as capital revenue and capital expenditure. In revenue expenditure, there are two parts, tax revenue and non-tax revenue. So tax revenues are those revenues that come from direct and indirect taxes, and non-tax revenues are all other sorts of revenues. Alright, now if we talk about the types of budgeting, what is a balanced budget? When the expected expenditure is equal to the anticipated revenue. So here expenditure is equal to revenue in the first one. Surplus budget is when revenue is greater than expenditure. The government's revenue will be greater than expenditure. And deficit budget, here is expenditure will be greater than revenue. So that is the entire thing. That's the entire picture. I have tried to crisp it up for you, because we will pay more attention to the highlights of the budget 21 and 22. Are you ready for it? So note it down. The budget for 21-22 rests on 6 pillars. Health and well-being, of course. Physical and financial capital and infrastructure, inclusive development for aspirational India. Reinvigorating human capital, innovation and research and development. Minimum government and maximum governance. Health and well-being, of course, because of the COVID-19 induced lockdown, India saw an uncertain, unprecedented unfolding of a crisis never seen before, as it was given in the economic survey. It saw the unfolding of a once-in-a-century health crisis. So, of course, this is going to be the first pillar. Physical and financial capital. It was affected. It has been affected a lot because of the COVID-19 induced pandemic, induced lockdown basically. So, that is why we need to pay attention to that also in infrastructure. Because more and more we infuse into the infrastructure, more and more will be the creation of employment. Then comes inclusive development. As we have seen, because of the lockdown, there was the problem, the economic pain basically. It was not balanced in nature, right? Because Oxfam recently came out with a report that it has divided the society much more than it was divided before when it comes to economic gains and economic losses. The top 11 billionaires of India, according to the study of Oxfam, are rich enough to actually finance the NREGs schemes, basically the scheme for the next 11 years. So that is for the next 10 years, beg your pardon. So that is the division right now. And also reinvigorating human capital, especially the skilled and the unskilled workers. Now, reinvigorating the human capital in the sense, because we are standing on the cusp of Industrial Revolution 4.0, we need to make or restructure our human resources in such a manner that it is going to balance both the skilled workers and especially the unskilled workers, because India is not having a human resource that is much more developed in these skilled services. And also innovation and research and development in order to deal with another such crises. And also minimum government, maximum governance. Now this concept is that the governance should be as such that people are able to self-govern and not dependent on the intervention of the government of India, the central government or the state government, basically the state as a whole. So those are the 6 pillars of this budget. Now it's all about data. Kindly pay attention. Now, Sitharaman, the finance minister, has announced a total spend of around 2 lakh crore on healthcare. So far, only 3 times the budget has followed a contraction. She said that our government is fully prepared to support and facilitate the reset of the economy. Okay, reset of the economy. The economy of India is seeing a V-shaped recovery. We have discussed about the V-shaped recovery in the Economic Survey of India, right? What is a V-shaped recovery? V-shaped recovery, that I'm going to draw a chart here for you. That's the chart. Here is the GDP and here is the time. Alright, so this is the entire situation. Suppose this is the imaginary GDP going upside, right? So V-shaped recovery is that India's GDP was here, then it dipped because of the COVID-19 induced lockdown and loss of unemployment, and of course because of unemployment, loss of jobs, and also so many losses irrespective of proper employment as well. So there has been a dip. After that, as according to the IMF, India is going to rise sharply, very sharply when it comes to seeing a rebound of GDP. So that is what India is witnessing right now. It is seeing a V-shaped recovery. The GDP dipped and now it is again regaining its momentum. So this is entire GDP, the entire economic recovery of India. So because of the V-shaped recovery, India is going to see a rebound. According to IMF, India is going to be the most sharply rising economy in the next 2 years, of course. And it has not painted a grim picture. The budget proposals of Part A will strengthen the Sankalp of Atmanirbhar Bharat. India needs to become an Atmanirbhar Bharat because of the distortion in the supply chain and demand chain as well, because of the trade war that was already looming large since 2017 and 18, and after that, of course, because of the COVID-19 induced lockdown. So that is because of all these problems and issues, India needs to become self-dependent and not depend on any other nation. And India is dependent on so many nations, especially China right now, for its market, because India has a huge market for Chinese goods. India needs, for self-development, a proper plan, right? PM Atmanirbhar Swasth Bharat, which will be launched with an outlay of 64,180 crore over 6 years, it intends to focus on reduction of single-use plastic, air pollution and segregation of waste. It may be asked in your prelims exam. Please be very careful and very thorough with this particular scheme. Alright, moving on. Mission Poshan 2.0 also has been launched, and Jal Jeevan Mission Urban. The Urban Swachh Bharat scheme will be implemented with an outlay of over 1.4 lakh crore. Also, rupees 75,000 crore for the COVID-19 vaccine. See, this was a big bone of contention and a big focus area when the budget wasn't passed. Recently, it was a big focus to see what kind of allocation would be there for the COVID-19 vaccine, because of rising vaccine nationality, because of rising need of vaccines for the such 130 crore people of India. So that was a big bone of contention, big area of focus, and the budget has allocated this amount. 217 projects worth over rupees 1 lakh crore were completed under National Infrastructure Pipeline. So National Infrastructure Pipeline majorly focuses on 4 sectors, and you have to tell me in the comment segment which 4 sectors are there. Alright. 7 textile parks to be developed in the next 3 years, and that railway will monetize dedicated freight corridor assets for operations and maintenance after commissioning, of course. The Finance Minister also announced that rupees 95,000 crore will be spent on roads in West Bengal. Now, interestingly, this saw the largest or the most loudest thumping of tables because of the forthcoming of the recent in the making polls of West Bengal. Also, it aims to complete 11,000 km of national highway infrastructure this year, and the government aims to spend rupees 1.97 lakh crore on various PLI schemes over the next 5 years, starting this fiscal. rupees 3.05 lakh crore outlay for the power sector, and added that 100 more cities to be added in the next 3 years to the gas distribution network. Jammu and Kashmir, a new gas pipeline project for that union territory will be there. And also there are so many other announcements that have been made recently along with this. Also, the FDI in insurance sector is proposed to be hiked to 74% from 49% now. Insurance sector, not only health insurance, but other sorts of insurance have also been opened up for foreign direct investment because insurance is needed. If we do not understand its importance in the COVID-19 pandemic, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we know nothing after that. And the development of a world-class fintech hub at GIFT and an investor charter will also be introduced. Further infusion of rupees 20,000 crore for public sector banks now because of the rising non-performing assets, because of the loss of debt servicing, because of the COVID-19 induced lockdown, loss of jobs. Because of that, infusion is needed and the budget is being seen promising here. Also, an increase in agriculture's credit target to rupees 16.5 lakh crore. Now, as we all know, the protests that have been going on because of the Farm Act, now this is a step in the right direction to allay the fears of the agriculture sector and allied services as well. 2 PSB, public sector banks, and 1 general insurance company to be divested, legislations amended, to be introduced in this particular session only. Over 15,000 schools to be qualitatively strengthened under national education policy. My another question for prelims to you is that which committee actually formulated the national education policy, under whose chairmanship basically. So fiscal deficit was estimated at 9.5% of GDP for 2021, and for 21-22 the fiscal deficit is estimated at 6.8% of GDP. The forthcoming census could be India's first digital census, the allocation for which has been already done. It was also announced that the government will increase maximum threshold paid up capital of small companies from 50 lakh to 2 crore rupees and increase the threshold of maximum turnover from 2 crore to 20 crore. The scraping of income tax for senior citizens under certain conditions, new rules for removal of double taxation for NRIs, and reduction in the time period of tax assessments, among other measures as well. Startups will also get an extension in their tax holiday for an additional year. A push to the textile industry, a central university in Leh, a focus on seaweed farming with a new facility in Tamil Nadu. Please read something about seaweed farming. It could be asked in your prelims exam, alright? And a new vehicle scraping policy that aims to provide the auto sector a boost, among other announcements. An additional 1 crore families will now benefit under the center's Ujjwala scheme. And so many schemes have been actually launched under this budget. It would be very significant. Wait for it, for the Drishti IAS website to come out with a thorough plan for budget. Alright, you can go and check it out on our website as well. So, significance. What is the significance of this particular budget? First is unprecedented health crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic has not been taken into account during the budget of 2020. Why? Because it was not known that such an unprecedented health crisis was in the making. So this budget has actually seen what has happened, and it has taken so many contingencies into account. It is trying to mitigate the ill impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. Growth versus distribution. Now, Oxfam study, and also because of economic survey, basically, it was seen that there was a tussle between whether to grow or to distribute. If we talk about growth, it couldn't be equal. It has to be unequal. And if growth will happen, then only distribution will happen. This is the second significance. Will the budget making any sort of balance between growth and distribution, right? Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, India had already during the pandemic, in the midst of the pandemic itself, in the month of May, June and July after that, made certain mini budgets according to the finance minister. They had already announced certain mini budgets. Atmanirbhar Bharat was one of them. Now, if we talk about strengthening of the Atmanirbhar Bharat, this budget will go a long way. Also, rising non-performing assets. This problem is going to be aggravated actually because of not proper debt servicing, and because of that, the balance sheet problems of the banks, the infrastructure, the real estate, the NBFC, all will spill over. The 4 balance sheet problem will also get aggravated. That is another significance, that because of the infusion of proper monetary allocation to PSBs, this could be impacted. Rising unemployment. Now, unemployment is being seen to be at an all-time high, 7 to 9%. Unimaginable unemployment. India's actual demographic dividend may become a demographic bomb if proper investment is not made in such places or such sectors where employment is boosted. Now, because of the national infrastructure pipeline, because of the development of gas pipelines, because of the completion of national highways, there will be so many projects that will impact unemployment. It could be seen as a step in the right direction. And change of international geopolitical situation. Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now these both can be interlinked, right? Because of the changing geopolitical situation, the trade war between US and China, and deteriorating ties of China with India, even we can say sort of with Nepal as well. So many countries are seeing a revolution when it comes to the actual linkages between different regions, different states, different countries. So that's another problem. That's another significance. Now, because of strengthening of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Sankalp under this project, because that has also been a key focus area, this budget will go a long way. If we talk about the challenges. Now, interestingly, these challenges are being taken from the Beveridge report. There was a very interesting article which was printed in the newspaper, the Indian Express, where it was talked about the five giants. In the year 1930, after the World War II, what happened actually after the World War? In the 1930s, what happened? The entire world was reeling under economic pressure. And the entire world, especially India, if we talk about, the British were very worried about the social insurance of the general populace. So a report by the name of Beveridge report, it talked about 5 giants which needed to be calmed down. First was want, that is deprivation or poverty because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, if we talk about the COVID-19 pandemic, all the households did not actually witness equal pain, equal economic pain, equal economic loss. There were so many people which have been actually pulled down back to poverty, which were uplifted, who were uplifted before. So that is the first. Second is disease, that is health care. The COVID-19 pandemic itself is another challenge that India needs to take care of. And after that, India cannot just sit back and relax, because according to the WHO chief, there are so many pandemics of even more such intensity, more than the intensity of the COVID-19 pandemic. They're still in the making. So that is another problem. Inadequate education. Here, according to the ACER report, it was seen that so many children were not able to solve basic maths problem, which did not help them to actually function as a proper or fundamental adult. So that is another problem, that is another challenge. New education policy is being strengthened under the budget. So we must see that this challenge could be surmounted. Inadequate housing. As we all know, because of the COVID-19 pandemic induced lockdown, what happened? So many migrants moved from one place to another. Why? Because they were not housed properly, because they had no assurance when it came to proper housing, right? So that is another problem. Unemployment or underemployment. We have already talked about the demographic dividend turning into demographic bomb, but the budget seems promising when it comes to creating infrastructure development plans which are actually labor intensive in nature. So these are the challenges that the budget needs to address. That's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.